Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Tuesday Morning Volquest podcast presented by Exterior Home Solutions, local and trusted since 1999. That is Exterior Home Solutions. Brent Hubbs, Grant Ramey, and Austin Price. I'm Eric Kane, and we're going to discuss a lot here over the next 40-ish minutes. Tennessee basketball into the Sweet 16, Lady Vols into the Sweet 16, Tennessee baseball a road win after dropping 2 straight for the first time in over a calendar year. Spring football practice is kicking back off this week, so much going on right now. No better place to stay up to date with it all than right here on the Volquest podcast, but of course, on the General's Quarters for live updates, up-to-the-minute information every single day. Let's start with hoops. Grant Ramey, a long weekend in Lexington, Kentucky, but for the third straight year, Tennessee basketball is back to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, crazy times we're living in. 3 straight Sweet 16s for the first time in program history. 4 under Rick and 7 NCAA tournament appearances. Just very impressive start to finish weekend. The way Chaz Lanier shot the basketball in both games, the way they flipped that UCLA game over the final 25 minutes, the defense they played, the physical defensive, kind of the brand, the trademark that they're known for. Just very impressive for them to handle their business the way they did. That was the first time in the second round where it felt kind of easy in the second half. In 2019, they played Iowa. They went to overtime in that game after they built a 20-point lead or whatever in the first half, and crazy second half to get to overtime. They found a way to win that game. Let's see, I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head, but they were close games, and it just felt like
you had Texas last year.
Texas was a rock fight, and you had to make free throws in the final, whatever it was, 2 minutes. So just a way. I mean, UCLA was outmatched, obviously. UCLA was kind of a little bit of looking at yourself in the mirror, the way they want to play defense, so they want to be physical and they want to out-scrap you and all that stuff. And Tennessee players talked about hearing UCLA players say that Friday afternoon in their press conferences, and I think they kind of took that a little bit personally, like we're going to show them that we're the more physical team, we're the more defensive team. You're not going to beat us at our own game, I think was kind of the mindset. And I think that's the statement that they made.
Grant, is this more ho-hum because of how Tennessee played, or is this more ho-hum because Tennessee's done this 3 straight times?
Probably 3 straight times. Probably because of, Tennessee just kind of made it look a little bit easy in the second half against UCLA. Final 25 minutes of that game, the way it turned when they went to that little press trap at half court late in the first half. And we went on that 8-0 run, and then it was really nothing after that. But I guess people are obviously also looking forward to the Sweet 16 in Kentucky and, all the storylines that go into that game and all the magnitude of that game and everything that's on the line. But, I mean, yeah, it is 3 straight, and you're coming off an Elite 8 run, and this team's won a lot of basketball games. This group has won a lot of basketball games over the last 4 years. So probably just a little bit more of a feeling of this is what's supposed to happen. This is what this team's supposed to do. And it's a good standard to have, obviously.
I mean, the storylines, they really do write themselves. I mean, UCLA is the one that, Barnes flirted with a handful of years ago. This next game is Kentucky, a team that's beat you 2 times in a row with a new coach. Barnes had such, if there is such thing as a high-quality success against Kentucky, he had against Cal. And then first year with Mark Pope, they lose the first 2 games with this veteran team. If you can get past that, I think the storyline writes itself if you're playing Purdue versus playing Houston. Either way, this team just they found a way to win without their A game, Grant. And there's been plenty of times over the last 10 years when Tennessee had good teams that they, in this situation when they didn't have their A game, lost. And they did not the other night. They found their way. Gainey got better as the game went on. He was off to start and then kind of got clicking. Lanier continues to do what he does and just seems like such a genuinely nice human being. Having had him out for Ball Club Confidential, he just seems like such a good kid.
I mean, this group as a whole, I mean, you got to think about it. People think about Rick Barnes basketball and how it's only defense, and the offense is usually pretty bad. Tennessee, I believe Tennessee's still 17th in KenPom offense. They don't score. They're not going to score it in the 90s, and they're not going to be Alabama, and they're not going to play up and down and shoot a ton of threes and do all that stuff, but they're going to score it efficiently. This is Rick's best offensive team since that 2019 team. I think they were top 5 offense, and they were in the 40s on defense, and this team is number 3 on defense and number 17 on offense. I think that puts into kind of perspective how this team kind of compares to some others. They're really, really good on both ends of the floor. They're playing some of their best offensive basketball right now too, because of what you got from Chaz Lanier since the postseason started, what you're getting from Zakai Ziegler pretty consistently, what Jordan Gainey is doing off the bench. So it's not only what they do defensively and how they set the tone. And I think it dates back to that Kentucky game in Lexington. I mean, they're 9-2 since then, and their losses was a 2-point loss at Ole Miss, a team that's going to the Sweet 16 that beat Iowa State by 20-something Sunday night, and a loss to Florida, one of the best teams in the country, playing the best basketball probably right now of anybody in college basketball. So, I mean, they've been impressive since then. And, yeah, the storylines are crazy. And shout out to the NCAA selection committee for putting Houston, the number 1 seed in the Midwest region, and giving them Purdue in Indianapolis, of all places. And then on the other side of that Midwest region semifinal is Tennessee and Kentucky. So Houston, the number 1 seed, goes to Indy to play possibly 3 possible opponents. They're all closer, much closer than Houston is. Basically playing 2 road games to try to get to a Final Four as the number 1 seed. It's crazy.
Yeah, Grant, I think Rick Barnes talks about this all the time with individual players. If you're struggling on the offensive end, how many times have you heard him say this? Just get lost in the game defensively, and things will start coming to you. Focus up defensively, the offense will, or you'll find it. That's how I kind of viewed the turning point in this game. Again, you mentioned that 1-2-2 trap a moment ago, but I mean that really was the turning point in this game. I mean Tennessee was down 23-21, 23-22 at some point in time. They go to that 1-2-2 trap around that same time, and Tennessee goes on that 8-0 run, the final 250 of the first half. Tennessee jumps out 14-6 lead, outscoring UCLA to begin the second half, and then that's all she wrote. Tennessee led by as many as 19 with 5 minutes left in the game. I thought because, again, of the defensive, not a shift. I mean, they've done this before. They haven't done it a lot, in my opinion. They've got it in their back pocket. They practice it sometimes, but because they went to that trap, and it changed the game completely, and Tennessee was off to the races.
Yeah, it's something they can go back to. We were talking to them about that after the game, players and coaches, and they were talking about, it's something we've toyed with throughout the year, and I think it's something they could go back to. Obviously, Kentucky has made them look bad with what Kentucky has done at the three-point line in those 2 games. It's been a tough matchup, so you're going to have to do some stuff differently and try to flip that and have this one, people talk about how hard it is to beat a team 3 times in a season. Well, obviously, Tennessee's going to be thinking a lot about those first 2 losses. They'll be a motivated bunch. They're a prideful bunch. They don't lose a lot of basketball games at home. Kentucky beat them at home. They had a 3-point lead, I think it was, with 4 minutes left at Kentucky, and did not close that basketball game well at all. And Kentucky won that one by 11. So it's going to be a motivated bunch, and Kentucky obviously also doesn't feel like it should be here. They have an underdog mentality. Nobody really counted them as a second weekend team in year 1 under Mark Pope. They haven't been here since 2019, but here they are, and Tennessee's waiting on them. And it's crazy. 241 games in 110 years they've never met in the NCAA tournament, and here it is in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and Tennessee's the only team that was going to play in the Sweet 16 against somebody they had played earlier in the year. I don't think anybody else has faced now, whether it had been Illinois or whether it's Kentucky. I think that's, again, go back to your tournament selection committee, and you're kind of like, really? I mean, only one? That's kind of the most Tennessee thing, it seems like. I want to go back to that 1-2-2 right quick, Grant. I mean, is there the notion that Zakai Ziegler kind of planted that seed to get into that deal? I mean, is that right? I mean, is that Zakai Ziegler kind of the head of the stake, sort of spearheading Tennessee's decision to go into that? And they've showed it kind of token pressure, but they were super aggressive with it against UCLA. Was that all Ziegler?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. Rick trusts Zakai more than he trusts probably as much as any player he's ever coached, in my opinion. So I would not be surprised to know that Zakai wanted to do that, A, and B, that Rick said, let's do it, and they went that direction. I think he trusts him more than anybody on either end of the floor, and that's what, this time of year is about veteran guards, and it's about guys that have been in these types of situations before and knowing what needs to happen. And if that was Zakai's call, then let him keep making calling the shots, because that turned the game and completely flipped it on its head.
Well, and that tells you exactly, Austin and Eric. I mean, it tells you where this basketball team is, and this is such a unique thing for any basketball coach to have a couple of guys that are such core guys who have been such a part of the success that they've had. This is unique. I don't know, and Grant and I were talking about this in a text deal last night. I mean, I don't know that Rick Barnes or anybody else in the country is going to get 4-year players that make the contributions that these guys are making. This is kind of the last of the dying breed, a little bit, if you will, of teams that high major teams that are built around core players the way this team is built.
Yeah, I mean, I said something with Cooper and Big O and after the Ohio State loss up there in the CFP about them being dinosaurs. Like Chris Lowe and I talked about this last night off the air. Like, Chaz Lanier breaking Lofton's 3-point record, a single season record, is totally going to be up in play almost every year. But like some of these career records, like they're going to last a long time because kids aren't going to stay long enough. I mean, you're right. I mean, kids just aren't going to, hang around. At least most of them aren't. And especially, players like, that we're seeing in today's modern world where you have just so many people hands-on from every different direction. But, he referenced that on the Nation last night about Zakai coming to him wanting to do the press. And, he talked about the way the game was officiated, like when they met as SEC coaches, what the stats, kind of bared out, and then talked about how he stresses to his team. And he said he didn't feel like they did a great job of it the first 4 minutes last night because everybody was getting fouls left and right. But then they settled in. He goes, you have to fill out the officiating before you decide how you're truly going to play defense. Like, you've got to figure out, are they going to call every little ticky-tack thing and then adjust off of that? And so that being able to do that tells you, what you're talking about, Brent, just the veteran-led team that can see how the game is going to transpire and adjust off of it in a number of different ways.
Grant, looking ahead to this week, Tennessee, Kentucky. It's not the latest game of the night, but it is a night game, in Indy on Friday night. What does the week look like for Tennessee basketball? And then, it's been a couple weeks since Tennessee's last seen Kentucky. Where is Kentucky right now from an injury standpoint, and kind of who have they been the last couple of weeks?
Well, it's actually kind of you kind of get an extra day because Tennessee had a Thursday, Saturday Lexington site for the first weekend, and then you go to a Friday, Sunday site for the second weekend. So that was a little bit nice to kind of get that little extra added day in there. They'll practice. They'll have a normal week until Wednesday. They'll leave Wednesday afternoon at some point for Indianapolis. It's kind of crazy. This is Zakai and Jemiah. This is their third trip to Indy for the NCAA tournament. 2021 was that COVID bubble tournament in Indy. Then they went back in 2022 for that first weekend at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And then obviously this is Lucas Oil Stadium this time around. Kentucky's got Lamont Butler back. He didn't play in Knoxville because of the shoulder issue. He played in Lexington, ended up leaving that game because of that shoulder, re-aggravating that shoulder injury a couple whatever date that was, February 11th. So he's still doing that. He's still wearing the brace. Jackson Robinson, the guy that hit a ton of shots in Knoxville, he's out because of a wrist injury. So they've had to overcome that. But, I mean, this Kentucky team's been dealing with injuries and all season, and they've just kind of kept going and kept doing it and kept finding ways to keep this thing going. And it's been crazy to watch. It's been impressive to watch. And this Tennessee team obviously has played well since that Kentucky game in Lexington. I think they're 9-2 in 11 games since then. They've played some of their best basketball here down the stretch. So crazy that we're getting this game, this rivalry at this point in the calendar, and with the situations for both teams, kind of the context of it all too. Is it's going to be really, really fun. It's going to be a long week for both fan bases, I'm sure, waiting on it, and it's going to be a very, very highly anticipated game Friday night.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of discussion. Is all the pressure on Tennessee here, or is there the pressure on Kentucky here because they've beat Tennessee twice, or is that all out the window because you're playing for a chance to go to the Elite Eight, and it's Elite Eight games in the Sweet 16 when your bracket holds chalk are always dogfights, right, Grant? I mean, it's not like you're two playing a 10 for a trip to the Elite Eight. The bracket magically opened up for you. I mean, none of the brackets have opened up for anybody, really. I mean, I guess Florida's bracket's open because St. John's is gone. But for the most part, everything is kind of chalk all the way through, which should make for a great weekend of basketball.
Yeah, I mean the Midwest is 1, 2, 3, 4. Houston, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Purdue. So that's been chalk. I mean this is what Tennessee had to do last year too. It was go through a 15, a 7, a 3, and then probably going to face a 1 in the Elite Eight if you get there. Kentucky, I think mindset wise, you're confident because you've played Tennessee twice, you've beat Tennessee twice. You beat them at home, you beat them on the road. You're here for the first time since 2019. Nobody really counted you to be here. They have that kind of underdog mentality, but they also have some confidence to them. Tennessee, obviously, Zakai Ziegler, Jemai Mashak, that group of guys, they're not going to, take lightly losing 2 games to Kentucky. They know what that rivalry means. They don't lose a lot of basketball games, period. So they're going to have that mentality going into it too. So the fact that it played out this way and these 2 teams are meeting now, it's pretty wild.
There also, as you referenced earlier, with some of the comments that UCLA made on Friday, and how it stuck with Tennessee players. Don't think that they've not already seen some of the chatter from the Kentucky players.
Oh, they're very aware.
And I mean that they'll just said a guy like Zakai, he's just gonna let it marinate. They're gonna let it marinate, and then Tennessee's able to win. It'll be one of the things that he talks about was the driving force.
Yeah, and they don't hide from it. I mean, that 20-point win over Florida in February after they went to Gainesville and lost by 30, a lot of that performance came from them going back and seeing how Florida acted in that final 5 minutes in Gainesville when that game was way out of reach, and the way Florida players acted after that game in social media videos and stuff like that. So this team doesn't hide from it. I think you got to kind of guard against it making too much of it and trying to put the game on too big of a pedestal and still just kind of play your game and do your stuff. But yeah, this is a team that they don't hide from it. They're gonna find every motivation they can, obviously, to keep going and get back to the Elite Eight for the 2nd year in a row.
Coach Ramey, outside of not shooting 43-pointers, how does Tennessee beat Kentucky?
Shoot the ball like the way they've shot it the last few games out. I mean, that 11 for 45 is still crazy to think about because they were 11 for 22 against UCLA. Chaz went 0 for 7 at Rupp in Lexington in February. Then he went to Rupp and he made 6 against Wofford. He made 4 against UCLA. So if Chaz keeps shooting it the way Chaz is shooting it, if Jordan Gainey keeps coming off the bench and being the guy that he's been, kind of an X factor for this team, that's huge. If Zakai keeps playing the way he has, that's where it starts. I think this team is going to, what Kentucky has done from the 3-point line against this team, shooting 50% through 2 games against the best 3-point defense in college basketball is obviously something that I'm sure Tennessee players, have in their head that they have to go back and find a way to correct that, because that's probably where the game's going to be won right there.
Well, both teams, rely pretty heavily on the outside shot, and this thing's going to be in Lucas Oil, which means sight lines, playing in stadiums. I mean, that's a thing, So I mean, who adjusts better to that? Because you're not playing in a normal arena, and there is a different feel when you're playing in a football stadium. Now, I do think it prepares both these teams because, if either one of them makes it out of Indianapolis, you're going to another football stadium, down the line. But, I think this first game especially, it'd be interesting to see who adjusts best to shooting in such a big venue.
Yeah, it'll be an adjustment. It's not quite as bad as the Final Four because that's set up for the entire football stadium.
Correct.
This is just in the end zone, basically, at Lucas Oil, using the half of the stadium. So it'll be a little bit different, but yeah, it's going to be an adjustment for both teams. I think maybe it could help Tennessee just the fact that you're not going back to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, a place where you got some bad memories from the last from 21 and 22. So we'll see what it looks like once we get in there Wednesday, Thursday, shoot-arounds and all that stuff, how the sight lines are. But yeah, that's something that's going to have to – adjustment's going to have to be made for both sides for sure.
Tennessee athletics. It's about as good as it's ever been right now, right? We'll discuss and look back at some other great moments, great stretches in Tennessee athletics history. All that and more coming up next right here on the Volquest podcast. But first, let's get a word from our proud presenting sponsors. That is Exterior Home Solutions.
Hey, Sterling, man, come on. We got a roof to replace.
Let's go, baby. It's game
Woo!
time. Let's go.
Hey, Sterl, you ready to go to the top?
Man, I can't believe you guys been doing this for 25 years. Oh, baby.
Now, this is what I call a rooftop party.
We have 25 years experience in roofing and exterior renovations, and we're backed by the best.
Are you ready to get your rooftop party started? Give us a call, 865-524-5888.
Exterior Home Solutions, 865-524-5888, online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. Number one choice in East Tennessee for roofing, siding, windows, or garage. You can contact Exterior Home Solutions today for a free estimate. All right, so Brent, you kind of put this on the board over the weekend. Comments from UCLA's head coach Mick Cronin before that game, but talking about this being the golden age in Tennessee basketball, and it certainly has been a exceptional run with Rick Barnes here over 10 seasons. There's been some other good stretches in program history, don't get me wrong, but he's right in that regard. You look at what Josh Heupel's doing in football, Tony Vitello, what he's done and what he's continuing to do in baseball, Lady Vols to the Sweet 16 when Kim Caldwell's first year. You look at the non-revenue sports and what tennis and golf and track and field have accomplished. This run for Tennessee athletics here lately, I mean, we say it all the time on All Everything School. It's pretty insane right now.
It is, and it's also insane because it just wasn't very good for a while, and so you haven't had this long necessarily of a run. But I mean, you go back to, and I put that on the board because I did something on 104.5 The Zone, talking about the golden age. Kind of talking, they were asking me about Cronin's comments, and I talked about the golden age there, and it bothered Ron Slay, because Slays at the end of the 90s get ignored in basketball, but because of Jerry Green. Now, my thing is, if your golden age is an extended period of time, okay, Jerry Green had 4 years and they ran him out of town. But you go back and look at, the 98, 99 year. I mean, that's a national championship in football. That's a basketball. And basketball, women's basketball won a national title. The men went to the second round of the NCAA tournament. Baseball was I don't know what, I don't have their numbers. They didn't go to the World Series, but they were. Rod Delmonico was still doing some solid things there. They had been in a golden age of baseball pre Tony Vitello. So what Tennessee's doing right now should be marketed the way it's marketed, and they're having great success. But we had a post on the board on Monday talking about this is the best it's been in 50 plus years in athletics. And that's a little much. Okay. I mean, it is, it's just what you're doing right now is got harmony, Grant, and also like we haven't, Eric, like we haven't seen, right? So Jerry Green's going to the NCAA tournament, and every time he gets to a microphone, it's the great Lady Vols and they're the big elephant. And he's clearly bothered by the fact that the women's basketball program and Pat Summitt get the publicity they get, right? And he's talking about football and the big elephant that is football. There wasn't harmony. And I hate it for Slay, and Slay and I talked about this off air afterwards. I mean, that run of basketball that they had, which brought them out of the Kevin O'Neill doldrums into a team that went to the Sweet 16 and had a real shot at going to the Elite Eight, they're forgotten because nobody had any use for their head basketball coach. None. The guy did no favors with anybody. Donors didn't like him. Fans didn't like him. I mean, none. Nobody liked him like that. So that team gets lost and gets forgotten. And that's sort of what I was talking about in the post. But to Mick Cronin's point, Grant, for what Rick Barnes has done for a decade at Tennessee, it is a golden age of basketball because it's the consistency. It's not 4 years or a 2-year run here. This is over 10 years that this basketball program is doing what it's doing.
Yeah, I think the tournament expanded to 64 teams in 85, and I think between 85 and 14, I guess they are all between 2000 and 2014. Tennessee, I think, had 5 Sweet 16 runs, something like that. And they've had 3 in the last 3 years. Obviously, they've had 4 under Rick. So, yeah, and I mean, you look at the win totals, the number of 25-plus win seasons, 26, 27, whatever number you want to choose. Like Rick's teams are all, towards the top of that list. Most of the teams on that list are Rick teams. 31, Bruce won 31, Rick's won 31. Bruce went to an Elite Eight, Rick's gone to an Elite Eight. So, yeah, it's the extended period of time. It's the consistency. It's the brand. I mean, just from what Rick inherited, third coach in 3 years, everything was a mess when he got here. He had a lot of work to do. They had 2 pretty, average to bad years, and then they turned it around in 17, 18, and it's been a national program since then. It's been very much relevant on a national stage. It's going to be a very desirable job whenever he does retire because of what he's done. I mean, it's going to be viewed as one of the better jobs in college basketball because of what Rick has shown you can do at this program, and you can win at a consistent level. You can win at a high clip the way Rick has done it. So, it's just completely the way he's flipped it. Now, I cannot imagine covering a Jerry Green and covering a team where it's just dysfunctional despite the success. You had Maryland. Kevin Willard was talking about the other day, like Maryland he's basically laying it out in a press conference. They're too cheap to stay an extra night in New York City on one of their trips. Like, could you imagine having to sit through that and deal with that? So,
or have to fly on Legion.
Well, here's the thing, and this is why I don't get mad at some fan who says it's the best it's ever been and anything like that, because I just made a reference to an era or a time of 3 or 4 years that were 90 let's say 96 to 2000. Okay, that's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's 25 years ago. And so if you're a young fan, it's exactly what Austin was talking about earlier. It's a generation of fans that you're getting that were lost because you didn't have anything to hang your hat on for the longest period of time. Baseball was terrible, right? They were awful in the Todd Riley era and the Dave Serrano, era. And now look where they're at. That's a whole generation of fans that you've created in baseball that you didn't have. And you're seeing the resurgence of that. I think Kim Caldwell in her first year is maybe 2 wins away from the most wins this program's had in a decade in a single season.
It also, if they win those 2, it would also be the first time they've been since 08 to the Final Four. So,
and I don't think they're going to get there. But my point being, you had this big window of just not very good that if you're a younger fan, you've known more not good than you've known good. Whereas if you're my age, you saw good, right? The 90s were good. And you got great regard for what happened there. But if you're 30 years old, man, you don't really remember what happened in 99. You know what I mean? You don't know what was going on. Eric, I'm not picking on you for your age. So this is not hey, let's make fun of Eric because he doesn't know this guy or that guy.
Incoming 3 threads on the board today. Let's go.
but you don't know, you don't remember Peyton Manning. Your memory of Peyton Manning is as an Indianapolis Colts and a pitch man for a former Tennessee player, not a guy who you watched play on Saturdays in Inland Stadium. You've seen highlights, but you didn't watch him play. Okay, I'm old. I covered his recruitment, right? Yeah. It's just a whole different generation, and that's why it feels different for younger fans than any previous runs in Tennessee athletics has felt.
That's why everybody just points to Bruce. Bruce, and what a great run he had here at Tennessee. That's growing up. That's my memory. Of Tennessee basketball. I remember growing up going and buying tickets up top, moving down low. Me and the dad and all that, and that was fun, but. In terms of winning, it's Bruce, and that's why you always see, there's so much conflict, on our board in this fan base of, thinking about the good times with Bruce Pearl, and then, part of the fan base can't stand him and all that and more because that's the most success this program has for my generation, until now with Rick Barnes, Grant.
A year, I might have told this story on the podcast before, but last year on Selection Sunday, Santiago Vespi had his family in town, and we were hanging out at the arena, just messing around, and Santi walks his family through, and they had curtains up in the upper deck for, I guess, a concert or something. Like they're making that concert backdrop in the arena. And we basically told Santi, like, years ago they had to put those things up because they couldn't sell tickets in the upper deck, like they couldn't fill the arena, and it like blew his mind. Like he did not understand, like, because all he had known was the arena being full and capacity crowds and all this stuff, and it being a tough ticket to get. So. I think that's kind of like where it is now versus where it's been at points in the past, and not that it hasn't been good in the past. They've had some great runs, obviously, in program history, but the sustained success and the consistency of it. Like I don't know how many years Rick has left. If I could tell you when he was going to retire, I would tell you when he's going to retire. We're going to get asked that question a billion times between now and whenever it happens. But just enjoy it while it lasts, because it's going to be tough to replicate. It's going to be tough to replace. Like, they could hire somebody who's going to knock it out of the park and just pick it up where Rick left off and keep going with it. They could make a bad hire and go back to struggling. But just enjoy the run while it lasts, because they're a winning program. They're winning at a high level. It's been fun to watch.
Well, and here's the interesting thing too. Sorry, Eric, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh,
but
no,
here's the interesting thing that I think is unique, that you've almost overcome some dysfunction to get yourself to this point. Tony Vitello is hired by John Curry, who absolutely butchered Tennessee football. Dave Hart hires Rick Barnes, who absolutely created all kinds of controversy with the Lady Vols because of the way he went with the logo stuff there. Right? I mean, here's Danny White has hired Josh Heupel. He's hired Kim Caldwell. But you look at different things that have happened, even in some of the other sports. I mean, Eve, the volleyball coach, was hired on Fulmer's watch.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Webb was hired on Fulmer's watch. I mean, and so those were all, quote, bad ADs, but somehow they did just enough good to create a pool of really good coaches who have all become sort of energized and have a synergy around each other, right? I mean, what Rick Barnes has meant and helped Kim Caldwell with in her first year, she'll tell you, I mean, he's been great for her. Tony Vitello will tell you what Barnes has meant to him. Like they're all in this sort of club together. That's what's different than previous runs. There's not a lot of jealousy running around in the athletic department. And I think that is, in this day and age, that is hard to find. I think it's going to be hard to continue to keep because of rev share and how things get divided up and all that other stuff. But the harmony that they have right now is really unlike anything we've seen, Eric.
I mean, it goes back to that 103-degree night, June the 24th, Monday night in Omaha, man. Like, you've got the entire athletics department that's on the field celebrating. You had that famous picture of Rick Barnes and Josh Heupel and Tony Vitello. And sure, I mean, it's like a lot of times that's just kind of for posture and everything. But, I mean, those guys were over there talking for 5 minutes, smiling, I mean, just loving on each other. I mean, they were genuinely pumped, thrilled, happy, excited. I mean, there's the photo. It was really, really cool to see. And yeah, I mean, to your point, I don't know if you have that at other places, around the country right now. I don't think you see, famous basketball coaches or high-profile football coaches going and supporting a baseball program when they make it to Omaha or to the championship series. But that's just one example, one of many examples. And I thought that was one of the unique things just to kind of sit back and look at and witness from that night, was how much these guys were just supporting one another. And it wasn't just a blow-by like, high five, dab it up, great job, man. No, during the middle of the celebration, they talked for like 10 minutes, the three of them, and I thought that was really cool.
You mean Jerry Green was never in a Tennessee baseball jersey at any point, Hub?
No. He was not near the arena when anybody was playing other than his team.
He was going to his boat. He was going to his boat.
Hub, you mentioned a lot of ADs. You're the only AD at Volquest. You've made a lot of bad hires. That's what that means.
Yeah.
You're solely responsible for all these bad hires.
Starting with me, right? I mean, it's one of those deals where,
excluding myself, of course.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know how it is at every other program around the country. I don't think Gino and Dan Hurley are probably hanging out a lot at UConn. Or at least I don't get to. And I don't think Gino and Dan Hurley,
who would want to be in that room, Hubs?
And Mora are hanging out together, right? And I think this part is unique.
Oh my gosh, that trio, AP, gross.
Oh, I mean, seriously,
maybe that's
Mora. Could Mora and Dan Hurley make Gino any more likable? When Gino's the most likable of them all, it's like, good Lord.
Oh,
but I mean, think about it. I mean, where's Tony Vitello for home basketball games when he can get there?
Sitting courtside with a number 5 on his chest.
Yeah, he's on Millionaire Row taunting other players and cheering on Zakazi.
Hype's out there on the porch.
Hype's at the porch.
Where's Tony Vitello during football games? Well, he's tackling Mike Eckler on the sideline.
Yeah, he's on the sideline yelling at officials. I mean, that's the cool part of it. I mean, and listen, that is the biggest difference to any previous athletic success. I probably have said this now 5 times, and I mean, I have witnessed where coaches were jealous of other coaches in a big time way. And That's just not the case right now, or at least from everybody you talk to and the appearances, it doesn't feel like that's the case, and that is a really, really cool thing. I give the chancellor credit for that. I give that guy right there, Rick Barnes, a ton of credit for that. Give Danny White credit for that for sure, and give the other coaches that are like, hey, I'm comfortable in who I am, so I hope everybody else wins. I want everybody else to have the most success that they can have.
Why does that picture look like Rick has no teeth?
Well, he's of a certain age, I guess. It was a late night. He'd already put the dentures up.
That's a T, Grant. That's a technical. You're better than that. Speaking of baseball, we got a couple minutes left. I know everybody's busy with basketball this weekend. I mean, obviously it's the NCAA tournament. Tennessee baseball had a really good weekend.
Yeah, one bad inning, Eric Kane. One bad inning, or they could have potentially swept them. They gave up all 6 runs on Thursday night in that one inning.
5 runs in the second, 1 more, but it was all right there together. Yeah, it was a bad sequence, and losing a midweek game to ETSU, having that really bad second inning on Thursday that you referenced, and doing all this without Gavin Keelan. Man, I thought Tennessee showed some resiliency. I thought Tennessee showed some fight. I mean, obviously we know Tennessee's good and they're talented and all that. I mean, coming off a national championship and what Tony Vitello's done here in terms of the roster, but Brent, AP, I thought Tennessee showed a lot of fight this weekend on the road against a team in Alabama that I think is pretty daggone good.
Yeah, I do think they're good, and I think they got a little inspiration because Bama over celebrated on Thursday night. I think that kind of recentered Tennessee a little bit if you need to. The thing that stands out to me, look, this team's going to hit it. Tony Vitello in offensive baseball is kind of like Josh Heupel in the run game, right? Like they're going to run the football successfully regardless of who the back is or who the offensive line is, regardless of who's in the hitting lineup. Tennessee baseball is going to score runs, right? The question is, what do they do on the mound? And what they're getting out of Phillips to eat innings the way he is in that game 2 of that series, and what they got out of that duo yesterday led by Coons, coming out. To me, that's the biggest advancement in a positive light for this baseball program over the last 2 since the start of SEC play, Eric. To me, what they've gotten thus far on Saturday and Sunday, or the game 2 and game 3 of the series, to me is the biggest storyline. Take the bats away. It's what they're getting on the mound with those guys.
No, I completely agree. I mean, you've got your best, most talented pitcher, A.J. Russell, is not a factor right now. Your ace and Liam Doyle he did not struggle against Florida, but he labored. He had a really, really bad inning, and he didn't get help defensively. We had a really bad inning in the second inning on Thursday. Now, the way he finished the game, hat tip to him, because he saved Tennessee's bullpen for the weekend and gave Tennessee a chance to win that game. But he was not good the other night, right, for the most part. So what Marcus Phillips is doing just continues to impress me. Tegan Coons, the last 2 weeks in his starts has been phenomenal. I'm so glad they gave him a true start on Saturday and let him go have an opportunity to qualify for the win there. And then Tennessee's found something in Braden Krenzel. This is a really interesting story. Physically, he's got the build, the makeup, the stature, and all that. A lot of movement on those pitches. He's got a 3 to 4 pitch mix, which is really, really advanced for a pitcher of his age. And Tony Vitello said on Tuesday night that Braden Krenzel has earned the opportunity to pitch this weekend. Boy, he wasn't kidding, was he? I mean, he pitched 4 2/3, almost went the distance to end that game, and I thought he was phenomenal. So to your point, what Phillips has done on Saturday, what Tennessee's done on Sundays to find ways to finish series, absolutely. I think it's been really impressive the first 6 games of SEC play.
Well, and what they're getting out of Chapman and Bargo, I continue to be impressed by those guys because, everybody loves to talk about, the new flashy objects, and, those guys were around a year ago and they were, okay, but they weren't, setting the world on fire by any stretch because that rest of the lineup was ridiculous. But they hit the ball really, really well this past weekend. They've been, really consistent for the order. And let's face it, they have that cold spray. That's all they need. My kid watched the other day Dean Curley spray it, hits a home run. So that following day, Andrew Fisher decides he's going to take his 14th walk back there, and he sprays it, and she goes, "Here comes the home run." He sprayed his bat. And then, of course, he hits the home run. She's like, told you it's the spray.
We talked about it a ton on the board. I wrote about in the 3-2-1 yesterday, but again, if nobody saw it or confused on what happened, it truly was funny to watch in real time. And let me be abundantly clear. If an opposing player did that at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, the fans would lose their ever-living minds.
They would. That's right.
Okay, so let's make that clear. But you're down 1-2. Fisher takes time, gets out there, readjusts the gloves, gets the spray, taking his time. The fans are yelling at him to get in the box. They're booing him. They're getting loud. He slows it down again. I mean, just the perfect troll. He walks, stops. He's trolling them. Gets up there. A couple of pitches later, fouls off a pitch off his foot. Gets time again. Does the same thing. I mean, it's getting loud in there. And then when he finally gets back into the box, he goes and hits a home run.
A moonshot.
Yeah, it was an advanced PhD troll, and he backed it up. So good for him.
And there was a Tennessee fan out there, like just past the fence, that they caught on camera. And I mean, he's like losing his mind.
Yeah, and then Dalton Bargo, what happened in the next at bat when they go back to back, and that contributed to Rob Vaughn just losing his mind over absolutely nothing. I mean, he was trying to pump up his team, but I mean that whole sequence was a huge point on Saturday, and kind of carried Tennessee's offense to a big win there.
Well, and again, you're not going to win them all, okay? I mean, and I think fans need to understand that, and you're going to drop a game here or there, and heck, at some point, this program's probably going to lose a weekend series in SEC play. I don't know. I might be retired before that happens, the way that they're going right now, but it's one of those deals where that's going to happen. Tony Vitello's talked about it for 2 or 3 weeks. What does this team do when adversity hits them? And their bounce back from adversity last week, I think, says a lot about where they are with a new team. I won't call them a young team. They're young in spots, but they're also new with transfers. How do you handle that when that happens? And there wasn't any kind of panic. And I think that's what you're looking for. Much the same way Rick Barnes, I think, has it with his basketball team. If you get down early or they call some fouls early, everybody take a deep breath. Like there's no panic in there. And that's what every coach is looking for. Don't panic. And I love the response that Vitello's group had on Friday after dropping 2 straight. He didn't go bananas with his lineup and do something goofy and flip everybody around. It was like, guys, we're okay. Just go play baseball.
Yeah.
Let's go throw it and hit it and field it and win baseball games. And that's exactly what they did.
And Alabama was so tough to put away. You had Tennessee leading 10-4 at one point in time. Dalton Bargo coming off the bench and getting a couple of huge RBI knocks that were so big. Dean Curley, a late 2-run home run. And Nate Snead's cruise him, and they want to give Nate Snead an opportunity to finish the game, and he just runs out of gas. And finally, the tying run comes to the plate on Friday night, and Tony plays matchup, right? And he goes Andrew Behnke. Then he goes Tanner Franklin. Tanner Franklin again, who Tennessee needs him so bad, and he's so talented.
But it had been so rough for Tanner. I mean, I'm texting you going, he's really not going to do this, is he?
No.
And he absolutely did. It was the right button to push.
It was. And I mean, and Tony said it after Tuesday's game. I mean, Franklin gave up the game, losing home run or whatever in extras, but he looked a whole lot better on Tuesday than he did against the Gators. And what a massive moment for Tennessee, but for Tanner Franklin, who, again, Tennessee needs Tanner Franklin big time this season. So I thought that was big. And
those Jeff County kids, man, they step up when the
they do
shine brightest Tubbs.
They don't shy away from the moment, no doubt.
Well, it was the pep talk you gave him. Don't embarrass our city.
Yeah, I called time. He was running out to the mound. The umpire checked and stuff for sticky substance, and I said, "All right, come here, Tanner. Let's go."
You said Mitch will be waiting on you at the county line in Newmarket with those Roscoe patrol cars that they
you'll never eat Kay's ice cream up there again. Is that place
still open?
It is not. Open. It's been about 14 different things since.
Remove the hoagie shop, by the way. It's downtown. It's really neat. That whole downtown area is nice. We drove through there. My wife had to have the nostalgia moment because she went to Carson Newman. And
not to get too political here, but big things happening in the old downtown in Jeff City. A lot of big projects. So good stuff there. Good stuff with Tennessee baseball. It's been fun. Tennessee's going to go on the road to South Carolina this weekend. Not a very good team, but ultimately, it doesn't feel like anything is ever easy in this league, so Tennessee will have to be on its game. But
Sunday, 5:00. Is that a TV deal?
SEC Network.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Really? What's that start time? That's bizarre.
At least it's not 9:49.
Sorry, Grant. You still got a little trauma.
Hey, against all odds, we avoided it Friday night. I was penciled in for sure for at least 9:30. No, we got the early game. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, they got the early one on Friday, so which is utterly amazing. But yeah, that game the other night was like 40. What did it really tip off at? Like 53?
53.
Yeah, 53.
I don't know. I went to the back to get a drink or something at halftime. I came out and I just looked at my watch and it was like 11:10. I was like, oh my gosh, 11:10. We're just starting the second half. It's gonna be a long night.
It was
You're out there posted on Facebook at 2:36 in the morning, Grant. You were having a blast.
Yeah, a blast. That's the way to
You
describe
and
it.
Rob, you're like, it's just after 1 a.m. here on the fast break.
Yeah, 1:14 a.m. Probably the latest fast break recording of all time.
White backdrop. I thought y'all looked like hostages.
Yeah, we were hostages.
Hostages to Rupp. That's
Held hostage by the NCAA and Turner Sports at Rep Arena in Lexington.
All this, we've been talking for 45 minutes. Haven't even mentioned spring football once. Coming
Yeah,
back,
they practice on Tuesday.
starting
Yeah.
practice
We'll talk
again on
about it on the-
Tuesday. And
Yeah, they scrimmage a week from yesterday. So it's not going to be a Saturday scrimmage because for whatever reason, it's supposedly now a Monday scrimmage. At least that's what the schedule says. I thought it was going to be a Saturday scrimmage in conjunction with the coaches clinic, but maybe that's not going to be the case.
lots going on right now over on the over on campus, and of course, no better place to stay up to date with it all than right here at Volquest.com. Men in the Sweet 16, women in the Sweet 16, football spring practice, number 1 ranked Tennessee baseball team back in action this week, and so much more recruiting as well.
Don't
All
forget,
that and
John
more at
Gruden's
Volquest.
coming to town. John Gruden will be here for the coaches.
I'm gonna go to the airport and welcome you, AP.
There you go.
You've already done that once in your life, though.
No, I went there to make sure everybody understood that he wasn't on the plane after I told him he wasn't going to be on the plane. Shut up, meathead.
A lot going on right now at Volquest.com. You can join us if you're listening or watching. We thank you. But if you're not a member, man, no better time than right now. $1 for 1 week. You can try us out. I mean, no better time to try us out than right now at Volquest.com. $1 for the first 7 days. You can check out all of our coverage. And, of course, you can be with us throughout the rest of the season and football coming up in the fall. All that and more right here at Volquest.com. For Brent Hubbs, Austin Price, Grant Ramey, I'm Eric Kane. Thanks again to Exterior Home Solutions for being a part of the show here on the Tuesday morning Volquest podcast.